Hello everyone, this is Yasaman and welcome to the lecture on emotional intelligence at workplace. In this lecture, we learn together about the concept of emotional intelligence and its application at work environment and what are the current available models of emotional intelligence. And to better understand the concept of emotional intelligence, I briefly explain what is emotion and how emotions affect our work life. And to better practice your emotional intelligence skills, finally, I introduce you to tools that you can practice this. So let's look at what is emotional intelligence. In Mayer and Salovey terms, emotional intelligence is a range of competencies and skills that can be employed by individuals to perceive, express, understand, and regulate emotions in self and others, and more importantly, to use emotion to guide thinking. Individuals with high emotional intelligence are able to read facial and bodily expressions of emotions in others. They are also able to understand the causes of their emotions. For example, if an sad event happened in their life and they're feeling low in energy and feeling physical fatigue, they're not simply saying that I just feel tired, but instead they try to label their bodily sensation and say that I'm feeling sad, and they understand that this is not only physical fatigue, because they have done many, like for example exercise and physical activity, but it is because they're feeling sadness and they feel sad. And they are also able to regulate their emotions in a constructive way. For example, when they're feeling sad, they just say that I better go and talk to my friend, and they have enough emotional vocabulary to make them able to express their feeling. They're also able to distinguish between how they feel and how the other person feel. For example, if their friend come to them and talk about how sad they feel, they try not to mix up their own feelings with their friend's feeling, and they understand that the source of emotion is coming from their friend, so they're able to listen and take their friend's perspective and emphasize with them, but they know that this is not their feeling. So, because emotions are contagious and they spread so quickly from one person to another person, and being aware of this help individuals to be more in control of how they feel, and also be able to help their friend to regulate their emotions. So the high individuals with high emotional intelligence are not victim of their emotions, but they try to be master them and use them to accomplish their goals. In the current literature, there are three available models of emotional intelligence, but in this lecture, we focus more on Daniel Goleman model of emotional intelligence. So as you can see, the first skill is to know one's emotions. That means to be able to monitor feelings from moment to moment and recognize them. The second skill is managing one's emotion, to be able to regulate emotion in a constructive way, to be able to comfort oneself and shake off anxiety when needs to. The third skill is to be able motivating oneself and to get oneself into a flow state when needs to, and not to be impulsive and be able to delay gratification and use emotions in the service of achieving one's goal. The fourth emotion is to be able to recognize emotion in others and be empathic and be able to attune to what other needs and feel. The fifth skills is to be able to handling relationship and managing relationship, to be able to have a healthy relationship with other people and managing emotions in others. Goleman EI skills can be divided into two: personal and social competencies that enable individuals to be aware of emotions and be able to regulate them in oneself and others. As I mentioned earlier, there are two other popular models of EI that you can check more in detail in Mayer and his colleagues. 2011 book chapter on models of EI. You can find the references at the end of the slides. Now that we learn about the concept of emotional intelligence, you may ask that, so why EI at workplace? Why managers and organizations need to be more emotionally intelligent? I'd like to start this discussion with a quote from Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert character, which says, companies use a lot of energies trying to increase employee satisfaction. That's very nice of them, but let's face it, work sucks. If people liked it, they do it for free. Well, current literature frequently claims that EI can be one of important factors that play important role in enhancing employees' job satisfaction and well-being. In contrast to Milton Friedman's perspective that argue businesses only social responsibilities to increase profit, the CSR, corporate social responsibility philosophy, argues businesses should commit to behave ethically and contribute not only to economy but also enhance workforce and their families' quality of life as well as local community and society at large. Nowadays, companies who committed to the CSR philosophy try to promote an organizational culture that is in favor of establishing emotionally intelligent norms, which in return expected to improve employees' well-being and job satisfaction. The concept of EI is also compatible with the definition of being a good corporate citizen. That means to be an employee who is compassionate, accountable, productive team worker, and also caring about their co-workers and their jobs. Nowadays, many leading companies such as Toyota, Microsoft, and many other Many others apply EI as a part of their recruiting messaging. Toyota mentioned in their recruiting ad that being a good corporate citizen starts with hiring lots of good citizens. What's a good corporate citizen? It's not about awards or mission statement or press releases. It's about people who care about what they do and how they do it. And at Toyota, we know these people pretty well because we hire them every chance we get. So as you can see, and I explained earlier, a concept of being a good corporate citizen is in line with the concept of emotional intelligence. And as you see, it's resonating in Toyota's advertisement. In constantly evolving businesses, companies have noticed that they need to be more flexible and adaptable to organizational changes. And with globalization, they have more diverse workforce, people from many different cultures, many different ways of communicating, and different understanding. So companies have noticed that this is not only cognitive and technical skills that is important for organizational success, but also social emotional skills are important factors as well. Emotional intelligence have claimed to positively enhance job satisfaction by providing individuals with the skills to be aware and regulate their emotions better, which in turn help them to protect themselves better from the effect of negative events and also help them to regulate occupational stress better. Individuals with high emotional intelligence are also better at reading and regulating others' emotions, which lead them to have healthier relationships with others. More importantly, managers who are emotionally intelligent tend to provide a positive work environment that enhances job satisfaction. AI also have claimed to positively influence job performance. In fact, general ability IQ predict 10 to 30% of variance in job performance. The other 90 to 70% often refer to non-cognitive abilities
or variables, which the concept of EI is one of the most important variable among these unexplained non-cognitive variables. EI contribute to employees' performance by helping them to cope with environmental demands, pressure, and help them to be more adaptive and to the organizational change and restructuring, and help them to be better at negotiating, better at being a good teamwork, to be more collaborative. Overall, all these factors is thought to impact organizational success.
Emotional intelligence also influence employees' positive organizational attitudes and behaviors that promote their working relationship and contribute to a positive working climate. EI generate effective commitment among employees, which lead them to collaborate with each other even at the times of stress and instability. Some of these attitudes, positive attitudes and behaviors are altruistic behavior, career commitment, willingness to change, and good customer orientation. EI is also claimed to contribute to transformational leadership. Leaders should not only be smart and be good at planning and organizing work activities in order to accomplish their organizational objective, but they also need to be emotionally engaging, inspiring, and motivating their group to achieve these goals. And they need to be able to maintain a collaborative interpersonal relationship and teamwork. Studies claim that EIQ is only predict 80% of leadership effectiveness, and the other 92% is predicted by social and emotional and motivational variables. Managers who has high emotional intelligence often tend to use language, storytelling, and other communication techniques to mobilize their team toward attainment of the organizational goals. The effect of EI on different organizational outcomes is an emerging field, and some of these claims may be plausible, some may be overstated. Therefore, there is a need for more research uh, to to prove these claims, and they need to be backed up with more evidence. There are many studies on the effect of EI in organization. I mentioned some of them here. Individuals with high emotional intelligence are better in interpersonal relationship. They're more tolerant to stress. They have more positive attitude toward change, organizational change, and they're better in handling it and managing the emotional labor from it. And they have greater sense of control and lower job, so therefore they have lower job stress. They able to express their emotions in a constructive way rather than mask it in organizations. Now that we learned about the concept of emotional intelligence at workplace and its possible contribution to the organizational success, just for the sake of clarity and better understanding of the concept of EI, let's learn a little about what exactly is emotion and how it is constructed. According to psychophysiological model of emotional constructions, emotions are constructed in multiple systems, which namely are physiological systems, cognitive systems, behavioral systems, and social systems. Emotions influence our physiology and often felt in the body. For example, when one is angry, they might feel their heart beats faster and they might feel like their hands sweating. Emotions also produce different chemicals in our body. For example, when we're happy, our body produces dopamine, and when we're stressed, our body produces cortisol. In a study by Neumann Ma and colleagues, they try to ask their participant to paint different regions of their body that they felt like become activated when they had certain emotions. For example, for emotion anger, the participant paint their regions like their heads, their chest, and their hands. So maybe they felt someone squeezing their heart and maybe their hands were sweating.
So, as you can see, emotions influence our physiology and even our health. There are studies that shows that people that they had highest level of anger, they're more at risk of heart disease and heart attacks. Emotions also influence our cognitive processes. That means emotions affect how we perceive our world. For example, fear enhances our sensory perceptions. That means we become more aware of sounds and look more carefully around us. Emotions also influence our memory. When we're in a sad mood, we tend to recall or remember more sad memories, and we tend to orient our attention on the negative aspects of the situation. In addition, positive emotions broaden our information processing and let us see a bigger picture, while negative emotion narrows down our information processing and we tend to become more analytical. Emotions influence our social systems. They are kind of social glues that bring us together and create emotional bond between us. We tend to be drawn more to individuals who experience more positive emotion with them rather than negative emotion. So we can say that emotions influence our interpersonal dynamic. And if we become more aware of our emotions and be able to regulate them more often, they might facilitate our social interactions in a positive way. Emotions also can be viewed as cultural construct that firstly constructed throughout our developmental period in a parent and child interaction. In a bigger picture, emotions follow folk theories of what emotions are and how they function. These folk cultural theories determine rules and norms about what type of emotional experiences are acceptable and which emotions are not acceptable. And they also dictate how they should be expressed. For example, in Italian culture, expressions of emotion in public might be more acceptable than Chinese culture. Emotions influence our behavioral system. They motivate our behavior and they lead us toward achieving our goals and help us to avoid danger and threats. When we feel angry, we might be restless and feel like there is something unfair. So we feel the urge, and maybe our energy level increase, and we feel like we need to do something to change the situation. Or even when we see someone is sad, we might go and give them a hug. So emotions manifest themselves as an action in a context. This is how they influence our behavior. So we learned that emotions are multifaceted construct. They manifest themselves in how we behave, how we process information, how we think, and how we remember. They manifest themselves as bodily sensations, and finally they manifest themselves in our social relationship and how we interact with each other.
Now that we learn about what is emotion, let's learn about what is the role of emotions at workplace. Emotions are an important source of information for interpreting and navigating our social environment. They are essential for sound judgment and decision making. Workplace traditionally viewed as a highly logical and rational environment. So there is less space left for emotions and they are often disregarded at workplace. The reason for this might be that the cognitive and motivational factors considered as the most important and the only predictors of job performance. The classical view of emotion, which goes back to ancient Greek philosophy, defined emotion as disruptive to one's mental activity. Work and emotion have reciprocal relationship. This means that how individuals' working life is, how successful or if they fail at their job tasks influence how they feel, and how they feel, whether they're happy or not, influence how productive they are at work environment. So emotions influence how employees task oriented behavior is, how their social behavior is, and how they perform at their job. Nowadays, employees spend most of their time at work and they might experience variety of emotions. According to Pekran and Fresev taxonomy of emotion, emotions divided at workplace into two categories of task-related and social-related emotion, which has two dimensions of positive and negative emotion. So as you can see here, for task-related emotions, they can be when they're successful at their task that they have been given, might feel enjoyment, maybe they have hope for promotion to come, or pride of achieving the promotion, and they might have experienced negative emotions such as anger, sadness, shame and guilt, boredom because of too much work from the one task that they have been given. And also social related emotions, it can be empathy with colleague that are just failed the task they have been given, or admiring the colleague at being really good at doing their job. And also social anxiety, which might be experienced at work environment, or embarrassment. In this lecture, we learn about the concept of emotional intelligence, which is the ability to perceive, understand, regulate, and use emotion in a constructive way. We learn about the concept of the philosophy of corporate social responsibility, which argue that businesses are responsible and should be concerned about their employees' social well-being. And we learn how emotional intelligence can help organization to provide a positive culture, organizational culture that contribute to not only their employees' well-being, but also their performance and other positive organizational attitudes and behavior. And also, it might contribute to have a better transformational leadership style. And we also learned about models of emotional intelligence, and we learned about what is emotions, and we learned that they are multifaceted construct, and emotional responses are manifested in how we behave and how we think, how we make decision, process information, and also it manifests in our body. And we learned that emotions are influenced by our cultural background, and there are many social rules about how emotions should be experienced or even expressed. Finally, we learned that our emotions and working life have a reciprocal relationship, and how we feel in workplace might influence our everyday life, and then how we experience emotions outside our work environment might influence our how we perform at the workplace. Now that you learn about the concept of emotional intelligence and what is emotion, let's do a group work. Make a group of 3 to 4 people and try to answer these questions. Briefly describe how do you usually express sadness, anger, and happiness, and think about if you need to regulate it, how do you usually do it? And then compare your answer according to your cultural background and cultural differences. And try to describe what are the rules for expressing emotion in your culture, and what are they, and when and where emotions are acceptable to be expressed, and how usually you express it. And then ask yourself, how do you think emotions should be expressed in a work environment? And try to think about, when you answer this question, your body language, gesture, facial expression, bodily sensations, and all these different aspects of emotion.
We end the lecture by learning about mood meter, which is a useful tool for you to practice becoming more aware of your emotion and regulate them. Mood meter consists of an x-axis that represent your private subjective experiences, varying from -5 to +5. The x-axis represent how pleasant you feel subjectively, and it ranges from unpleasant emotions, which is -5, to pleasant emotion, which is +5. The y-axis focuses on energy level and the physical aspect of your feeling, and represent what's going on throughout your body, and the intensity level varies from -5 to +5. The -5 is the high in the lowest amount of energy you ever have, and the +5 is the highest amount of energy. So the two axes divide mood meter to 4 quadrants, which is color coded. The first quadrant is yellow, representing pleasant feeling with lots of energy. For example, the feeling that might come to your mind for the yellow quadrant might be excited, which can be plotted in the mood meter by saying, for example, I have the level of energy of +4 and for excited emotion, and the +2 level of pleasantness. When using mood meter, it is important to understand the feeling, the facial expression of emotions, and the body language physiology associated to it. For yellow quadrant, you might feel like you have bright eyes, cheerful face, and having eyes wide open. Going to the red quadrant, the level of energy is similar to yellow quadrant, but the pleasantness changed to unpleasant feelings like anger, frustration, anxiety. The physical expression can be, for red quadrant, can be like pressed lips, gritted teeth, and clenched fist. So going down to the blue quadrant, the emotions here are unpleasant and have low energy. Feeling like sad, disappointed. The physical expressions also can be looking down, body slumping, vocal tone is low and soft, and the energy level is low. Finally, going to the green quadrant, the energy levels stay low as the blue quadrant, but the feeling is pleasant here. Feelings such as peaceful, calm, relaxed. The physical expression that you might notice for this feeling here might be like small smile, body feeling at ease, and soft voice. Mood meter help you to become aware of your feeling, and by trying to plot yourself using numbers and words, feeling words. For example, you can say that I feel +2 and -2 peaceful or calm. +2 and -2. I feel +2 and -2 calm. Please notice that all emotions are valuable, and the goal here is not to always being in yellow and green quadrant, which is pleasant feeling. But the most important thing is to be aware of how we are feeling, and if we feeling unpleasant, try to be comfortable and be aware of it and be comfortable with it. And if possible, find a strategy to channel your feeling to more pleasant emotion, which is I represent in the next slide. For example, if I feel angry and be in a red quadrant, I ask myself, what what are the available strategy that I have that can ease my anger? So maybe if I want to come to more pleasant feeling with more low energy, like how can I move myself to the green quadrant? The most important thing here is to be aware, and after that find a strategy to channel our emotion constructively to another feeling state. At last, for individuals that are more interested to explore their emotions, I put this link to the Paul Ekman website that is Atlas of Emotions. The website provides you with an interactive tool to explore your vocabulary of emotions. At the end, thank you for listening to the lecture, and if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask me or write me an email. Thank you.